Would you run that by again, Mr. Rossiter?
What for?
I'd like to see those frames in slow motion.
This is a busy office, Mr. Judd. You came off the plane bellowing like a bullfrog that your client wasn't allowed to see the film. All right, we showed it to you. Now you want to see it in slow motion. Next thing, you'll want blow-ups of each frame.
I might.
This isn't the police department. We're a small staff of private investigators, privately financed.
By an ad hoc committee of private citizens, I know. Now you tell me with what in mind? To circumvent the law?
No. Put some teeth in it.
Why wasn't this investigation left with the police department where it belongs?
Because we've had our mayor killed right in front of us. We got the man who pulled the trigger, yes. But that man had to have help. People of this city want to know who helped him. And after scratching their heads for 6 months, the police department can't find out.
And you can, Mr. Rossiter?
You mind calling him Chief Rossiter?
Why?
He's got a right to the title. He's retired from the police department.
Well, I take strong objection to your use of the title in press releases, Rossiter. People are misled into thinking you're conducting an official investigation of my client instead of a private witch hunt.
Duly noted, Counselor.
And since you refuse to rerun that film, I want a copy of it.
Anything else?
Yes. Copies of all reports or statements showing just what grounds you have for your public accusations of my client. Paul Christopher is a distinguished architect, a leading citizen, and you're going around broadly hinting that he signaled the killer.
Looks that way on the film, doesn't it?
All I saw was Paul Christopher mopping his forehead.
What'd you expect? Christopher cupping his hands and hollering fire? Don't tell me my business, Mr. Judd. I know the man. I know everything about him, up to and including his complicity.
You've been trying him in the newspapers, now you're trying him in front of me. When do you intend to try him in a courtroom?
When I've got him nailed. Maybe then you can defend him. But until I'm good and ready, there's not a damn thing you can do.
Judd, for the defense. Judd for the Defense is brought to you by...
Is there anything you could possibly have done to give Rossiter a case against him?
No, as far as I know, nothing.
Well, then how does it make any sense for him to pick a man as prominent as you?
Oh, my prominence may be the whole reason for it. Everybody knows how I felt about our late mayor and his city hall cabal. They wouldn't let a decent slum clearance program pass. They fought my park and playground bill. They wouldn't pass my equal zoning law. My trouble was probably they didn't come home here and cry about it.
What did you do?
I put up the money for a recall action against the mayor, and I filed suit against him and the members of the city council individually. You think it's any coincidence that 2 of the 3 members of the ad hoc committee paying Rossiter's salary are also members of the city council?
Well, now, how well did you know the man who killed the mayor?
Fairly well. We organized various ill-fated protest marches. Conway and I were political allies.
Couldn't you find any better ones?
I didn't know he was planning to shoot someone.
But you knew he had some pretty dangerous rocks in his head.
All right, he was juicy. Well, I know a lot of juicy people, and by and large, I like them. Who else is trying to change the face of things these days? Keep answer that phone now. It's usually some hoarse voice on the other end, calling me a name. Yes. Oh, no. All right. You want to talk? Right. I'll talk. That's your associate, Caldwell. Just wanted to let you know that He's back at the hotel.
No. Paul, aside from anonymous phone calls and other annoyances, well, you mentioned garbage dumped on your lawn, has Rossiter's investigation damaged you in any material way?
Damaged me? My practice was the equal to that of any architect in this state before he started. Now three-quarters of that practice is gone. I had to let my chief assistant go, Eric Hamilton. He was a wonderful man, practically my right hand. All of my draftsmen, except one. If this keeps up, I don't know. Well, I don't know where I'm going to get the money to pay your fee. What would you think of this as a down payment?
I'll take it.
You know, before when you asked what I could possibly have done to get Rossiter after me, not that this makes any sense, but there was a time when I was friendly with Rossiter's wife.
Oh? In what way?
Oh, in the same way I was friendly with any number of women in the town who interested themselves in cultural projects, the Art Museum, Urban Renewal League. I used to drive her home after the meeting. She'd invite me in for coffee. I enjoyed talking to her, that's all.
Do you still see her?
No, nobody sees Elizabeth Rossiter anymore. 2 years ago, her daughter was involved in a nasty automobile accident. Elizabeth seemed to go to pieces. She's dropped completely out of circulation.
Well, that's all.
You're not Clinton, Judd.
No, but don't let that stop you. Come on in anyway. I'm Ben Caldwell, his associate.
I'm, Cassie Rossiter.
Cassie Rossiter. Well, at least you're better looking than your father.
I don't happen to think so.
And what's your mission, Cassie, to service your father's bugs?
What's that supposed to mean?
Oh, are you trying to tell me that you don't know about your father's methods? Oh, maybe you don't. I apologize. What can I do for you, Cassie?
My father sent some film and papers from our files that Mr. Judd wants.
Oh, that was nice of him.
For Mr. Judd, and only Mr. Judd. If he'll be here soon, I'll wait.
Now, what is it about me that girls just don't trust?
You don't trust my father. If you did, you wouldn't be on Paul Christopher's side.
Well, I'm a lawyer.
My father knows the law. He went to law school. Part way, anyhow, till his family ran out of money. That's why he became a police officer. So when he makes a charge...
Nobody should even defend the victim.
When he makes a charge, there's nothing wrong with it. If he was doing something wrong, he wouldn't let you see these records, now would he?
Well, it depends on which records. Does it say in that stuff where we can find Eric Hamilton?
I haven't read them. I only work in the office part-time.
Well, read it now, why don't you? Go ahead. Eric Hamilton was Christopher's assistant, his protege, his only real friend. Hamilton left his apartment 3 days ago, but he hasn't been seen since. I phoned your father's office to ask where I can get in touch with Hamilton. No answer. If your father was so completely on the up and up, those papers should give us that information. Do they?
No. When will Mr. Judd be here?
You might as well just leave that stuff. I'm sure there's nothing important in it.
Tell me, Mr.
Called.
How do you feel about your job? I mean, helping a lot of crooks and killers get off. You like your life?
Love it.
That's too bad. I was almost going to say something nice about the way you wear your hair.
Dan, you want to hear what happened to... Well, hello.
Mr. Clinton Judd, Miss Cassie Rossiter.
Miss Rossiter?
Mr. Judd, you said you wanted these, and my father said you could have them.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, did she say anything interesting?
Almost.
Hello, Chief.
Who told you to bring that material over here?
Well, You asked someone to bring it over, and everybody was busy, so I brought it.
Cassie, if I ever catch you going near Judd again,
Why?
or anyone connected with the Christopher case, do you hear me, Cassie? I'll put you under lock and key.
Why? What are you afraid I'll tell them?
I have no business even to tell him your name.
Well, I told this Caldwell fellow was how much I thought of you. Maybe it doesn't work both ways. I mean, what do you think of me?
Oh, come on, Cassie. If I didn't think I could depend on you, I would have just given up these past 2 years. Come on. I'll take you home.
Hey, listen, Chief. Do you bug people's hotel rooms?
Get in here, Cassie.
I didn't get a line on Hamilton's whereabouts, but I did get the feeling around town that Christopher was really out to get the mayor. Toward the end, they were trading insults every day, almost degenerated into fistfights once or twice.
Well, what about women in Christopher's life?
Various and unimportant. No one woman for some reason.
Look at this. Now, was Christopher mopping his brow, or was he signaling Conway to fire? I don't know. If there were any hard evidence, I can't see the DA not going for an indictment. On the other hand, I can't see a man like Rossiter climbing way out on a limb unless that limb was solid.
Hello. Who is this? 1812 Artesian Drive, apartment 2G. Eric Hamilton should be there.
The caller wouldn't say who he was?
He or she was. Cassie Rossiter?
95, 94, 93, 92.
How you doing, Eric? You know what's happening to you?
Sodium pentothal.
That's right, Eric. You're going to tell the truth, that's all. The truth never hurt anyone.
I don't want this. I don't want to talk against my best friend. I won't tell you anything. I won't talk. Let me out of here.
Come on, you're taking this test voluntarily of your own free will.
Free will. Free will. Does a jellyfish have free will? A caved-in yellow jellyfish. Shut out. No.
Go out in the hall. I don't want any big-eared neighbors ringing the doorbell. Does a jellyfish pass bad checks? You passed 4 bad checks, Eric. And I got him to call it a mistake. Account overdrawn. But you and I know better, don't we? So you better behave, Eric, or I'm going to slam you up for a felony. Give him a little more.
I'm afraid to. He might go under too deep.
What do you know? You got a license to practice medicine?
If I had a license, I wouldn't be worried about a homicide rap. Give him a couple of minutes more, will you, Chief?
Can we help you?
Yeah, if that's apartment 2G, which it is, you could move out of the way. Are you police officers?
What business do you have here?
Well, I'm an attorney officer, and I understand that one Eric Hamilton is in this apartment.
He's not here.
Are you refusing to let me ring that doorbell?
That's right. You're interfering with a police investigation. Sorry, Counselor.
Do you mind showing me that badge again, officer, and an ID to go with it?
You go, and we're going to have to fit you for a pair of these.
Now, just tell me one more thing. Did Christopher ever buy a 9mm Luger pistol?
No.
Are you sure, Eric? You hesitated before you said no. Did he ever talk about any guns?
I talked to him.
You did? How was that?
I saw Paul put a gun catalog in the drawer of his drafting table, and I was shocked. heavy-hated guns.
A gun catalog? What company?
It was one of those mail-order outfits. International Geneva. He told me he was worried about a lot of threats he was getting over the civil rights marches.
Whose name is the apartment in?
George Phillips, one of Rossiter's men. I may never warm up to our client, but I am frozen solid against Rossiter's Gestapo. And I am going to find some legal precedent to use against him if I have to move into a library.
What good is legal precedent when there's no due process of law?
The client is being convicted without a trial, without an indictment. He hasn't even been charged.
You know, you might do better to check on those girls you hired to go through the newspapers for us.
Now, they should be all right. Why?
Summary of an item dated 2 years ago. Mrs. Elizabeth Rossiter was suddenly taken ill while shopping in the Modern Mode department store. An ambulance was called, which tallies with what Christopher told me. The woman went to pieces after her daughter had an auto accident. Now, here's the accident summarized. Cassie Rossiter piled her father's car into a bridge abutment.
What's wrong with that?
The date? Your girls have Mrs. Rossiter making the papers 3 days before her daughter's accident.
Well, Clint, are you sure of Christopher's version?
I'm not even sure of Christopher himself. You know, one good thing about Rossiter's unethical tactics, there's no ethical reason why I can't go see his wife. Miss Rossiter?
Hello.
Excuse me. I rang the front doorbell, but no one answered. I heard music coming from back here. My name is Clinton Judd.
Oh, I never hear anything when I'm listening to music, and my daughter isn't home. Won't you sit down, Mr. Judd?
Thank you.
Would you like some tea or coffee?
No, thank you. It surprised me. I didn't expect so pleasant a reception from Dan Rossiter's wife.
Really? Why?
I'm representing Paul Christopher.
Paul Christopher. Why do I think I know that name?
Are you saying you don't? He says he knows you.
Does he? Well, I'm not sure.
He's been in the newspapers quite a bit.
I don't read much.
In connection with your husband's work.
Dan doesn't talk about his work to me. Mr. Judd, you mean that I should know this man? Because I was taken ill 2 years ago, I'm having a little difficulty remembering things and people. Did I meet him around that time?
You might have. On the other hand, Mrs. Rossiter, you might not have. At any rate, it's nothing to concern you now. I'm sorry to have disturbed you.
What are you doing here?
Cassie, come and meet Mr. Judd.
I've already met him.
Hello, Cassie.
Would you like me to call my father and tell him you're here?
No, but you might call him and tell him I'm just leaving. Goodbye, Mrs. Rossiter.
Cassie, why do you suppose he wanted to talk to me about Paul Christopher?
You must have made a mistake. I've asked you about it 100 times, but you never seem to know who I'm talking about.
I do remember something about him. Just starting to remember. Is Paul Christopher, is he an architect?
Yes. He's an architect.
Mr. Judd, you've come to a closed meeting of this committee without invitation. You're not on our agenda.
Because you're who you are, we're giving you our time. But would you please come to the point?
That's exactly where I am. Without the financial support of this committee, Rossiter couldn't function.
We're aware of that.
Mr. Stratton, you're a lawyer. And from what I hear, you're also an honest man. You approve of Rossiter's methods?
I don't approve of the highest elected official in this town being gunned down in the middle of the afternoon.
Now, why don't you leave that problem to your police?
Because we want results. I'm going to level with you, Judd.
I'd take it easy, Mark.
You would, I wouldn't. He knows the police are practically wearing their own handcuffs these days.
Can we bug phones? Can we apply any kind of real pressure? Can we even question a man without his lawyer?
Mr. Forsythe, you were talking about safeguards which make police the guardians of public safety. Take those away, you don't have law enforcement, you have brute force.
Mr. Judd, we hired Rossiter to do a job. There's nothing you can do to stop him.
So I heard from Rossiter, too. But he didn't finish law school. And Mr. Stratton, he did finish. He knows better. Mr. Stratton, must I go into court to ask for an injunction to restrain Rossiter from harassing, defaming, and otherwise damaging my client? Also naming the members of this committee as co-defendants?
You file it, we'll fight it. We're not fooling around.
That's what I thought you'd say. I don't normally do this, but my client is suffering, and time is of the essence. So here's a summons for each one of you. Martin Forsythe?
Take it.
Arthur Kincaid? And John Stratton. Gentlemen, see you in court.
Call Rossiter.
You here, Ben? I've got...
Hello, honey. What do you say?
All I can say at the moment, honey, is you've got the wrong room.
Oh, no, I like this room. Don't you like me?
Judd for the defense will continue following station identification.
Sidney, run these down to the commissioner before they get lost. All right, next case. Christopher versus Rossiter et al. Mr. Judd, the plaintiff. Proceed, Mr. Judd.
May it please the court, my client, Paul Christopher, asks a cease and desist order against willful harassment, continued abuse, and outright vilification by Daniel Rossiter and the so-called ad hoc committee to bring Mayor Richard's killers to justice.
Your Honor, the defendants ask that the case be dismissed. There are slander and libel provisions. The plaintiff's reputation has really been damaged.
And we reserve the right to use every one of them. But the point here is that my client wants relief from daily outpourings of the most abusive nature, accusing him of being a conspirator, a murderer, and an assassin.
There is such a thing as free speech and freedom of the press. Chief Rossiter and the ad hoc committee are conducting a legitimate investigation. We have a right to inform the people.
It's precisely the point at which one man's freedom becomes another's harassment and abuse that is at issue in this case. Motion for dismissal denied. Since we're too close to lunchtime to proceed with the new case, court stands adjourned till 2 o'clock.
Maybe you didn't take a good look at this. You want a wire photo from coast to coast?
Try it, Rossiter. And I hope you have $2 million, because that's what I'll sue for. $1 million compensatory and $1 million punitive for malice.
You know what you're talking about. This girl is underage.
Good.
You want to be arrested on statutory charges?
Talk to my lawyer.
Will you sign the complaint, Mr. Rossiter? We would welcome a police investigation into how you got this girl into the hotel room and what you used to twist her arm. And if it turns out she has anything like a shoplifting charge against her and you knew it, we can also sue you for false arrest.
I want Dr. Gorman, please. No, I don't want anyone else on the sanitarium staff. I want to speak to Dr. Gorman. Look, this is Chief Rossiter, and I don't care how many patients he's with. This is an emergency. The nature of the emergency is that I want my wife committed again.
No, you don't.
Were you listening at the door?
On the extension.
Well, fine. Very nice habits you're getting into.
I can buy them legitimately. Don't you bug people's hotel rooms? I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I want to tell you something.
Go on. Go to a movie. Tell me later.
No, please, let me tell you now. Don't do this to Mother. Don't send her back there.
Cassie, I've got to do it. I'm in a fight, a rough one. I can't have her hanging on my neck. She'll drag me down.
Was there? You heard what the doctor said. Some people do very well in a sanitarium, some don't, and Mother's one of them.
She's not doing too well here either, is she?
Yes. She is. She's starting to remember things.
What things? She's starting to remember Christopher. That's what you meant, isn't it?
No, that's not what I
meant. Now, you stop it! I don't believe a word you say anymore. Why didn't you tell me Judd was here? Why did I have to find out by keeping my own house under surveillance?
Mother didn't say a word to him.
She might the next time he comes snooping around.
I won't let that happen. I'll stay with her. I'll watch over her. No one will get near her. Just please don't send her back there again. She'll lose everything she's gained in the past 2 years. She'll never get better.
You're 18 years old. Don't you tell me what to do.
I won't let you do it.
Shut up. Now, I don't want to hear a single word out of you until I'm off that phone. Hello? Oh, yes, Dr. Gorman.
Cassie! Mr. Christopher, is it your sincere belief that you have been damaged in any material way by Mr. Rossiter?
Yes.
Tell the court in what way.
Commission for the Municipal Library canceled. Harborview Apartments canceled. Riverside Industrial Park canceled.
Your Honor, plaintiff wishes to introduce as Exhibit A these press releases and other public statements issued by defendant. Statements which virtually accuse Mr. Christopher of conspiring to murder Mayor Richards.
Accepted. Clerk will mark.
Mr. Christopher, what steps did you take to seek relief from this vicious campaign?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is stating what has yet to be proved.
Read Exhibit A, Your Honor. Read the releases.
I intend to do so. Meantime, your objection is sustained. Confine yourself to less colorful adjectives.
Mr. Christopher, what steps did you take to remedy this?
I pleaded with Mr. Rossiter. I pleaded with the district attorney and the police department. I asked them, begged them to indict me and bring me to trial or leave me alone.
And what was the result?
No result.
I will ask you one more question. Did you have anything whatsoever to do with the shooting of Mayor Richards?
No, nothing. So help me, God, I had nothing to do with it.
Your Honor, I think we've said enough to establish a very clear case. Paul Christopher is being ruined in his practice of architecture by the accusations of a group of self-appointed private citizens with no authority to prosecute, much less to persecute. I ask the court to restrain them from continuing.
I would like to hear from Mr. Rossiter. Does the defense intend to call him?
Yes, Your Honor, we're prepared to do that right away. Daniel Rossiter to the stand.
My experience from my present position includes 12 years as chief of detectives in the police department of this city.
So you know pretty well what you're talking about. All right. Now, Chief Rossiter, will you tell the court why you're investigating the plaintiff's connection, if any, with the murder of Mayor Richards?
Because I have reason to believe there is a connection.
Now, by reason, you mean you have evidence against Paul Christopher?
I do.
Hard evidence?
Yes, sir.
Are you prepared to present that evidence in open court today?
No, sir. I don't want to tip my case before I have it all sewed up.
Won't you please present at least some of it so the court can know that you're conducting a legitimate investigation and not a persecution, as the plaintiff contends? Chief, won't you show just one piece of evidence?
This is a letter written by Paul Christopher to Peter Conway, dated 8 days before Conway shot the mayor.
Your Honor?
Mm-hmm. Any objection, Mr. Judd?
None.
Would you read it, please, Chief?
Dear Conway, you know what we talked about, but we're not going to leave it at mere coffee house grumbling. Action, action, action. It's time to get the mayor. So here's the $5,000 I promised. What more can I do? Let me know. Signed, Christopher.
Ladies, may cross-examine.
Mr. Rossiter, exactly what does get the mayor mean?
What it says?
What it says or what you say? Couldn't it refer to beating the mayor at the next election?
Not in the light of other evidence I have.
Which you refuse to reveal.
That's right.
Now, how did you obtain the evidence you have revealed? This letter, how did you get it? Conway didn't give it to you. Conway's dead. Did you get it by an illegal search? Did you commit breaking and entering? An outright theft? How did you get the letter? Will the court please instruct the witness to answer?
Objection, Your Honor. I submit that Mr. Rossiter is not a policeman. Therefore, he's not required to justify his methods of obtaining information.
That is precisely the point, Your Honor. He is acting as a policeman without the legal safeguards which restrain the police.
He's a private citizen, Your Honor. Is he to be penalized for acting in the public interest?
I will make my ruling in just a moment.
Nancy Rossiter's at the hotel waiting for you. She wants to wait in our room. The room clerk wants to know if you should let her in.
Tell him yes.
I will sustain the objection. Witness need not answer. I will say to you, Mr. Judd, at this time that Mr. Rossiter would appear to be acting in the public interest. And I would need more reason than has yet been shown to interfere with him.
Will Your Honor grant a continuance until tomorrow?
Mr. Judd has no more witnesses. I'm satisfied with the case as it stands. What's the point in delay?
The point is the court believes Daniel Rossiter to be acting in the public interest, whereas I now have information to believe that Daniel Rossiter may be acting in his own personal interest to satisfy some personal feeling against my client.
Can you prove that?
I'm asking for time to prove it. Your Honor, my client is a man drowning in a sea of suspicion and unfounded charges. This is no mere lawsuit to him. This is a rescue ship. It's his only hope.
Case will continue tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Patsy! She's not here. Any questions who dragged her away?
The question is, where did he have her taken?
Well, leave it to me. I'll find out. How? Never mind how. If I told you, you wouldn't let me do it. Hello, Phillips. You mind stepping out here in the hall?
What for?
Well, I want to look at you under the same conditions as the other day to make sure you're the same man that impersonated an officer.
It's just a little misunderstanding, Counselor. Why don't you come in and we'll talk it over?
No. Why don't you come and talk to the real police? I'm going to phone them right now.
It's your word against ours.
Oh, is it? Well, what if it's your word against mine, plus 3 of your neighbors who witnessed the whole thing? No. You're in real trouble, Phillips.
So are you.
Witnesses. I didn't have them before, but I have them now. It's a new charge, aggravated assault. It's a felony.
I see him. You set this whole thing up. You came here to get a beating.
You guessed it.
For what?
Cassie Rossiter. Now, where is she?
Where are you going, Dan?
And you're not supposed to talk to the other department.
Anything unethical in talking to me about my daughter?
No, of course not. Cassie's perfectly all right. She spent the night at her aunt's house.
And where is she going to spend today? On the witness stand?
Part of it.
Judd, if you can figure how hard it is for me to ask you a favor, but I'm asking you not to put Cassie on.
Well, it's got to be even harder to try to convince me why not.
She told you about her mother, didn't she?
Yes.
Did she tell you what a struggle it's been for us over the 2 years? In the beginning, Elizabeth didn't know her own name. She's getting better now. She's starting to remember things. For the first time, we can see her climbing up out of that black pit. Slow, straining for every inch. Now you put Cassie on the stand, and you have her say what made her mother get sick in the first place. Say it right out in front of everybody, so that it gets back to Elizabeth. What do you think is going to happen to my wife? She'll slip back down all the way. We'll never get her back.
You hypocrite.
Hypocrite?
You can go into that courtroom and tell your lawyer you want to enter a confession of judgment and lose this case. And gain your wife's sanity if it means anything to you. But you'd have to take your teeth out of Paul Christopher. And you won't let go of him, will you?
Not while I'm alive, I won't. Not after what he did to me.
Yes, my mother knew Paul Christopher. She doesn't remember it now, but she knew him.
To what extent did she know him, Cassie?
To the extent that she shouldn't have known anyone except her husband.
Were you aware of this at the time, Cassie?
Yes.
Can you tell the court whether your father was also aware of it?
Yes, he was.
How do you know he was? Cassie. Cassie, you must answer the question. How did you know your father was aware of the relationship between your mother and Paul Christopher?
Because I told him. I saw them together and I told him.
And what, if anything, did your father do about it?
He drove my mother out of her mind.
Can you explain that to the court, Cassie?
Not really. I don't know what went on behind their doors, whether he beat her. I don't think so. Maybe it was just what he said to her. Or the way he looked at her with those eyes. He even told me himself he had mean eyes. All I know is that my mother, who was never sick a day in her life, went to pieces in the Modern Mode department store, and they had to take her to a sanitarium.
And what did you do about that, Cassie?
I took my father's car out on the expressway, and there was this big cement thing with the bridge anchored onto it, and I drove into it.
Was that to punish someone?
Yes, myself, because I told him.
And what you're doing now, Cassie, testifying, is that to punish anyone?
No. It's just to keep my mother out of the sanitarium because she gets worse there. My father wanted to have her put away again, so she wouldn't talk to you, and so he could get his revenge on Paul Christopher. So I decided to talk. And maybe now he'll leave her alone.
Cross-examine, Mr. Stratton.
No questions.
Thank you, Cassie. You may step down.
No, she may not step down. No. That she saw us together. Well, ask her what? What was it? Ask her to tell us what she saw.
With your Honor's permission.
Yes, I would like to hear this. Go ahead.
Cassie, what did you see?
I saw them together at 12 o'clock at night when my father wasn't at home.
Cassie, I used to drive your mother home from urban renewal meetings.
They were coming out of the bedroom.
Cassie, your mother told me that she wanted to add a room to the house, and I offered to plan the job. I'm an architect. Now,
Can you understand that architects have to look at beams and joists and things like that, which are visible in the attic?
The bedroom.
Access to the attic in your house is through the top of that closet in that bedroom.
You didn't have time to get your coat on.
Cassie! I took off my coat to climb up through that closet into the attic. And for that, you've ruined 2 lives. Your mother's and mine. Crippled yourself, you stupid girl.
Counsel for both sides will approach the bench, please. Gentlemen, I'm going to find the plaintiff. Mr. Stratton, I'm appalled that your ad hoc committee didn't examine Rossiter's attitudes more carefully before you hired him.
Your Honor, I never...
That's no excuse. Mr. Judd, I will issue the injunction this afternoon. Give you time to consult with your client as to whether to amend your complaint. You may feel you're entitled to ask for monetary damages.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
The end came sudden.
I don't want their money. Let's get the injunction. I'm going home. How did you get in here?
I have a key. I have keys to your front door, your back door, every lock you hide behind. You can't get away from me.
Now drop it, Rossiter. You should have stayed in court this morning. You would have learned.
I know. I talked to Stratton on the phone. I'm not interested.
Not interested?
No. All I want is your signature on this. It's a simple little statement. To the effect that you gave Conway money one time when you were drunk to kill the mayor. Later you changed your mind and backed out, but Conway went ahead anyway. You see, I'm letting you off easy.
In the first place, you know it's not true. But even if it were, what in the world makes you think that I'd sign it?
You'd rather I go to the DA with all my evidence? Letters, tape recordings, affidavits? And the catalog from the International Geneva Arms Company? You did send for their catalog, didn't you?
Yes, I was thinking of keeping a revolver in the house.
It shows there on page 9. You were thinking of buying a 9mm Luger pistol. It's circled in India ink.
That's not my catalog.
With a drafting pen like this one. I can get an expert to testify it was this pen.
I burned my catalog.
I know. We found the ashes in your fireplace and got rid of them. So you've got nothing. But I've got a photostatic copy of your letter to the company. One catalog looks like another. How can you prove this one isn't yours?
Rossiter, now listen, if you talk to Stratton, didn't he tell you that the judge is
going to issue an injunction? That won't stop me.
You've got to let me alone now.
You out of your mind. Let you alone after what you did to me.
I did nothing to you. Nothing happened between your wife and me. Didn't Stratton tell you?
Oh, you lied, Christopher.
Lied? Today in court?
You lied. And if you tell the same lie for the rest of your life, that's how long I'll be after you.
I tell you, I never touched Elizabeth. Now, what more do you want?
Your skin. Sign it. Sign it fast. Otherwise, I'll take every inch of you and hang you out to dry. I will hang you, Christopher.
Judd, never mind the injunction. The case has been settled out of court. Your Honor, this is a case of murder in the second degree. The defendant, Paul Christopher, is charged with the fatal stabbing of one Daniel Rossiter.
Defendant, how do you plead?
Defendant pleads not guilty, Your Honor, and requests a jury trial.
Date will be set by the clerk.
I remind the court that murder 2 is bailable.
The state opposes bail in this case, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I make a brief remark to the point?
Go ahead, Mr. Judd.
Your Honor, it is our contention that Paul Christopher is not the man who should stand trial for the death of Daniel Rossiter. Granted, it was his hand that held the weapon. But the force that struck was fear. Primitive fear of a merciless, all-powerful enemy who could only be stopped by primitive means. It is important to ask how such an enemy could acquire the power to instill such fear. These 3 men constitute the so-called ad hoc committee which employed Rossiter. I challenge them to come into court and face the truth. I'll let them hear it now. Mr. Stratton, Mr. Kincaid, Mr. Forsythe. Law-abiding citizens. Are you? Yes, when it protects you. But when the law stands between you and your desires, you say, forget the law, it has no teeth. So you brought Chief Rossiter out from under the restraints, the checks and balances of legal police operation, and you, with your money, got him the teeth of a shark. You turned him loose to ravage. What is your excuse, gentlemen? That you didn't know he was warped and unbalanced by his personal hatred for Paul Christopher? But you knew the monstrous methods he was using? What is your excuse for closing your eyes? That you thought he would protect the public? But a monster doesn't protect. It only destroys. Your Honor, Paul Christopher will not run away from prosecution, any more than he ran from persecution. He will stay and defend what is left of the brilliant life he once had, as he defended it against Daniel Rossiter. But I would wish, and I will say this again and again in the course of the trial, that those 3 men could also be brought to trial and be punished for their guilt. I thank the court. This concludes my remarks.
I will allow bail for this defendant, fixed at $10,000. His court is adjourned.
Okay, Paul? Well, let's go down to the clerk's office and get you squared away. Paul?
Paul. Somebody wants to say hello to you.
haven't been well. But I'm really feeling much better now. That's right. I don't quite understand what happened between you and Dan. When you get a chance, would you come and tell me about it?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Judd for the defense has been brought to you by